Today is Wednesday, the 4th of November, which means tomorrow we in the UK go into
stay at home,
our second lockdown. Let me explain how that affects me. Saturday just gone, it was Halloween. Traditionally, we do three things on Halloween. I get to select a scary movie, and I always pick something from my childhood so that I can introduce my slightly younger wife and much younger children to a better era of cinema when Spider-Man wasn't in everything.
Hey everyone.
Second, we get to have a takeaway, a large takeaway. And lastly, my wife and children get to ridicule the film I selected and tell me that the special effects are dated and terrible, and why can't they remake An American Werewolf in London with Chris Hemsworth? Idiots. Anyway, I had an idea on Sunday to do a video about how long it takes me to burn through the 4,000 calorie cheat meal I had with endurance exercise. How much cycling is required to get through the Haagen-Dazs, how much running is required for the chicken strips, goodness knows what the cheeseburger pizza would need. That was the plan, but I woke up on Sunday morning demotivated, slightly because I was still annoyed that my kid's telling me that Jenny Agutter telling a clearly rubbish puppet dog that she loves it is not scary, it's ridiculous.
I love you, David.
But mostly because they had announced Lockdown 2. And here's how that impacts me. Now, very importantly, how COVID and the restrictions around it impact anyone will obviously be particular to them. And I'm very aware that some people are affected in horrendous ways, life-changing ways. I'm very lucky. In comparison, the impact to me is negligible, almost irrelevant. But it is still an impact. And the fact that others will undoubtedly have it far worse can't negate that completely. That's not how life works. If you have a minor bump in your car in a car park and it costs you a couple of £100, that is highly annoying. If you find out that someone got wiped out on the M4 that day, that might allow you to view your situation with a little more perspective, but it doesn't stop it still being highly annoying. So with that understanding in mind, here's how it will impact me. My gym will close, my swimming pool will close. The trail running race I had booked for the 14th will be cancelled. The trail running race I had booked for the 21st with Nixon will be cancelled. The team trail running race I had booked for the 22nd with Nixon, Jefferson and Jenna will be cancelled. The duathlon I'd only just booked for the 29th will be cancelled. And most frustratingly, the race I've been looking forward to all year, my favourite race, the 50k ultramarathon in early December, will be cancelled. Now, I try really hard to adopt good habits on the basis that then goals will just happen automatically. That works really well for good health and fitness because the goals aren't actually required for that. They're not necessary. The habits are though. It doesn't work the other way around. You can't have good goals but no habits to achieve them. That's pointless. But even so, maintaining those good habits when the goals, even if they are unnecessary, are just vanishing in front of your eyes and getting postponed till November, December 2021 is incredibly demoralising. As a result, I started on my 4,000 calorie burning quest in the wrong frame of mind. I went for a ride outside, too windy, nearly died, came indoors, rode the kicker, got bored, went to the gym, rode, got as far as 2,000 calories burnt total, thought I'd run the other 2,000, couldn't be bothered, came home, ate cake, not literally, didn't eat a cake, ate a Jaffa cake, a whole box of Jaffa cakes. That did not go to plan. So Sunday sucked, Monday sucked. Tuesday, I had an idea. Today is Wednesday. The first thing to note here is that no one can go into a 4-week lockdown and expect to come out of it in the same physical condition that you went into it. You might decline, you might improve, but you won't stay static. It is too big a change for nothing to change. That is outside your control. But whether it's an improvement or a decline, you can control. I am not going to decline because I have a tool. I am not anti-lockdown. I don't follow the science closely enough to know whether it's necessary or not. Maybe if I was affected more significantly, I'd have a closer look at it. But I'm not, so I don't. I'll simply assume that it is absolutely required. But here is my frustration. Where is the nuance? I understand the blanket approach in March when there's panic and we need a quick and immediate solution. But 8 months on, my gym is small. I never see more than 4 or 5 people in there. You sanitize your hands going in, you sanitize your hands going out, you sanitize your hands between stations. You social distance. Does that make it zero risk? No, it's not supposed to be zero risk. You could drop a dumbbell on your head. But it does seem to make it low risk, short of the statistical unlikelihood of somebody from around here, where the risk is actually low, going in there with an infection and then coughing on a barbell and me running over and immediately licking it. I can't see that it's an easy place for transference to occur. Could we not take some of the money that's been spent on all this and fund some sort of inspector that can go to businesses like that, of which there must be thousands, and say, do you know what, this type of business in general can't run, but the way this particular one is doing it, because of the size, the number of members, the way you got it set up, actually you get a green light. Your members can still come, you can keep your jobs, the members can still pay as you were. Maybe there's a good reason why that can't happen, I don't know. Ironically, my gym is part of a sports complex that is part of my kid's school. My kid can clearly still go to that school with 1,000 other kids who probably are licking each other. Anyway, the other aspect that puzzles me somewhat is that the message is very geared towards helping people avoid catching the virus. Understandably. But every day, thousands catch it. Thousands every day. People in all walks of life. If Donald Trump, Boris Johnson, the future King of England, the future King of England's son, Stringer Bell can all catch it, anyone can catch it. So it's fair to assume that simply trying not to catch it won't always be successful. So where is the government's message to help the people who inevitably will get it to be better placed to shrug it off when that happens? Now, there are clearly some people who can do nothing about the contributory factors that make them more vulnerable. Those are outside of their control. That's horrible for those people. They clearly need support and help. But that is not everybody. There does seem to be a growing amount of evidence that suggests that if you have unhealthy lifestyle choices that you do have a control over, that addressing those might make your COVID experience, if it comes along, slightly less arduous. Now, clearly you don't have to make any changes. In fact, the amount of endurance training that I do leaves me in an almost permanent state of recovery, and that is not an ideal place to be if you catch a virus. I look at the statistics, I see there are not many athletes with a high level of training that succumb to the virus because of that, and so I roll the dice. If you're a couple of stone overweight, you're clearly able to do that as well. Although it would be only sensible to acknowledge that that is a slightly different dice roll. So where is the government's message promoting healthy eating, taking regular exercise, emphasising how important that is, the ability to make a change over time? If you were 2 stone overweight when this all started, and you dropped £1 a week, you'd now be 0 stone overweight. It just seems strange. It's like if this government were running a campaign to promote safety around water, lakes, ponds, rivers. They would put all their time, all their effort, all their message into doing all they could to stop people from falling in. An obviously very important part of that issue. Yet when confronted with the fact that 20,000 people a day fell in anyway, nobody would think to mention swimming lessons. What do I know? So here's how my lockdown is going to work. You can take away my gym, my pool, you can cancel my races, but you can't tell me how I'm going to respond to all that. I am responding with a wrench. You know that scene in Good Will Hunting where Will is telling Sean that his scumbag dad used to say, pick the belt or the wrench? And Sean says, you've got to go with the belt. And Will says, no, I go with the wrench.
Why the wrench? Because fuck him, that's why.
If something's tough, sometimes all you have left to control is how tough it's going to be. I'm going running today, and COVID, lockdown, the Jaffa cakes, the pizza, they want me to be a little bit heavier than I normally would be. £2, maybe £3. Well, I picked 25. cut yourself? Nixon's covered in blood, but he seems to be still with us. So my dad always said if you don't come back from a sporting endeavour bleeding from somewhere, you haven't really tried. So good effort, little man. 10k done. Figures back in the garage. The idea of a weights vest came to me a couple of weeks ago. I was doing a 10k race with Jenna, her first proper 10k race. So I ran it with her at her pace. We did it in a fraction over the hour, which is good for her. It's quite slow for me. I finished it not even out of breath, and yet I was very aware that when I'd done that very same race years ago, massively overweight, I'd struggled to get anywhere near an hour. And I wondered how much of that improvement between then and now that I've benefited from is because of my training and my technique and so on, how much of it is just because I'm lighter. So I came home, I thought I'd test it. I grabbed a 50-pound dumbbell, stuck it in a rucksack and went for a run. I thought I'd go do 10k and see how I get on. I used to be 100 pound heavier than I am now, so I figured 50 pound, that's a walk in the park. I got a kilometre in, everything hurt, I turned around and walked home again. It was disastrous. So I did a bit of reading on running with weights, and the general advice is don't go more than 10% above your body weight. So I'm about 225, 230 at the moment. 25-pound vest gives me around 250-ish total. And yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the figures look like back in the garage. I quite enjoyed it. Still breathing? Dog's still alive. Okay, so a bite to eat. Wash the blood off the dog so that Jen doesn't spot it and I get in trouble. And then back in here to look at the numbers. Okay, so the numbers from today. Interesting, I ran a 10k route that I've done many times before, so I know what typical figures for that route look like unweighted. And if I compare today's run next to an identical run that I did a couple of weeks ago, it looks like this. 4:29 pace then versus a 4:52 pace today. So 44 minutes 49 seconds then and 48 minutes 46 seconds today. That 4:29 pace, that felt like a routine run. I could have knocked a couple of minutes off of that run a couple of weeks ago. I don't know I could have knocked a couple of minutes off of today's run, not easily anyway. So I was pushing on. So slower, but average heart rate pretty similar for both, high 150s each time. It's almost as though my body likes that level of expenditure for a medium distance run and then just adjust the pace to suit. I'd anticipated my heart rate adjusting upwards instead. Maybe I subconsciously avoid allowing that to happen, knowing that I can't maintain a much higher heart rate for a long period of time. So in summary, aerobically, not vastly different to a normal run, but obviously the impact on my body showing itself in the pace that I was going at. In terms of how it actually felt to run with it, it's a good weight. It's about 11 kilograms, that's sort of 23 pounds-ish. You can certainly tell it's there, but it's not massively intrusive in the way that the 50-pound dumbbell in the rucksack was. And it's light enough that you can adjust and correct for the impact that it does have on you. For example, in the first kilometre, I felt a little bit of shin pain. It's the sort of shin pain I would sometimes get towards the end of a very long run when my form starts to deteriorate. And I was a little bit worried. But actually, all it encouraged me to do was to focus very heavily on running properly, making sure I had a good mid-foot landing, wasn't heel striking, just really focusing on what I was doing, and almost instantly the pain went away. I also certainly wouldn't want to go any heavier. It's enough to provide the sensation of sort of running uphill even when you're on the flat. And obviously when you do run uphill, it makes it feel even steeper. And that sensation was mirrored in my quads. Certainly the last 3-4k, I could really feel in my legs that, well, it felt like I'd been doing a hill session. So I like it. My plan is to do a significant number of my runs in November wearing the vest. Off the top of my head, half of them. And then because I want some goals back in my life that have been taken away, I'm going to set myself a target in early December of doing a PB in my 1 mile, 5k, 10k, half marathon, maybe marathon, see how I feel. The hope is I'll take the vest off and it will just feel like I'm flying. That is the hope. In the meantime, today I have got more stuff to do. I am tempted to get out on the bike. I've got a few new bits on there I really haven't had a chance to exploit because last time I was out it was too windy. And the weather is lovely today. It certainly is a lovely day, but there will be other lovely days in the next month that I can cycle. There probably won't be other days in the next month that I can come to the gym. So, one last go before they lock the place down. Chest and shoulders, and I brought with me the weighted vest because I fancy doing some dips and pretending I'm the Rock with his chains. Seemed like a cool idea when I left the house, but now I'm 3/4 of the way there, my arm is aching. It seems less cool. I imagine the Rock has someone to carry his chains around for him. I'm not quite sure how much like the Rock I looked. Wearing this thing, doing dips, probably not very Rock-like, but it felt pretty cool. Stating the obvious, it makes dips hard work, wow. And a good reminder to me going into the next 4 weeks that today has been really hard, but everything that's been really hard has been hard because I've chosen to make it hard. I have dictated how tough it's going to be. And that's important. Not every day is like that. Some days life is hard enough without you adding anything to it. But most days you have a little bit of capacity to add on and bump up the level of effort that you're going to expend. And I like that. I like the idea that going into the next 4 weeks, how hard each day will be down to me. And it will be hard, but it'll be my choice. And I've also worked out in my head that the 2,000 calories I burnt on Sunday, plus the swim I did yesterday, the bike ride I did yesterday, the run I did this morning, and the gym now, means I've probably burnt through my 4,000 calories. Doesn't include those, my 4,000 calories. So, yay me.